I had a question along that line. You were talking about external and internal, and for a high energy shepherd who on a recall, he's just so excited, he can hardly wait, he sees you going, so he's whining, gotta go. And the same thing on the long sit or the long down, but it's a different tone of whining.
Yeah.
He's been left there and he fusses.
Yeah.
How do you, or is there any chance of?
There is sometimes, and sometimes not, right? So the big thing first is to teach the same thing, a cue for them to stop vocalizing in some fashion. So when I'm doing recalls and stuff, I have a second person with the dog and a line on the dog, and we make the dog do what we call cap, and the dog doesn't get to go until they sit still and be quiet. And so I literally will say, sit, quiet. And when they're quiet, okay, and they get to run to the person or whatever it is. Same thing with downs, but I have to have the context for teaching them what they're supposed to do. In my opinion, there are certain dogs out there, and some of the working line German Shepherds are very much like this. Some of that vocalization is very unconscious for them. And so when they're excited, there's a certain amount of vocalization that they're aware of. There's a difference between a dog, for instance, making noise to get you to pay attention to them or to get you to give them something. And that can be whining, that can be barking, that can be all kinds of stuff, where they're consciously, it's an operant, what we call an operant behavior, where they've learned that that gets them something. You're not paying attention to them, they come up and whine at you and you start, what do you want, right? And you've reinforced it. That dog has figured out this behavior gets you something. And some involuntary behaviors that can come along with high levels of stimulation. So I mentioned before the dog that shakes when he's stimulated. He can't not do that when he's stimulated. I can try my best to teach him, no shake, sit still, right? That ain't gonna happen, right? A certain level of stimulation comes with this. And in my opinion, some dogs, and German Shepherds are common, some of the working lines especially, have some involuntary vocalizations that come with certain levels of stimulation. Like leaking air, squeaking things. And I think lots of times they're not even aware they're doing it. And the only way to manipulate it is by keeping them out of that state of arousal, by minimizing the state of arousal, which can have other poor effects on your performance, right? So you keep them from getting excited by reducing the number of rewards and the possibility for reward, and they drop down in excitement, but then that affects other things. They start checking out on you, they don't pay as much attention, they're, right? All those other things. And so I first have to determine if I think the dog knows they're doing it. And so first step is I teach them to vocalize on command, and then teach them to be quiet on command, and I start adding quiet commands to those exercises and only reinforcing them when they're quiet. I control like for downstays, for instance, I control the quality of the rewards. So I reinforce the dog with low value rewards. So if my dog's super crazy for a ball, for instance, I don't reinforce him with a ball for doing a downstay. He gets food rewards for doing downstays. I go back and feed him something less arousing, potentially. And so I manage his energy level by what types of rewards he's expecting in certain circumstances, so that hopefully then when he's in a down, he's not expecting me to throw a ball, so he's a little less stimulated, and so he's less likely to make those noises. And then we go through it that way. And if I've determined that it's involuntary, I'll still go through the same process, and I'll try to only reinforce him when he's quiet, but I'll tolerate some small amount of vocalization. And it just depends on what you're doing, whether or not. People, again, this is one of those places where people get a false sense that their dog knows, right? Again, some dogs definitely know that they're making noise and they're trying to get you to do something through making noise. Other dogs, they're making noise, you correct them, and they're a dog that happens to suppress some under correction. The corrections are hard enough, you suppress them, so now they're in a lower state of arousal, so they don't make any noise. You say, aha, they knew they were supposed to shut up, and so they're quiet for a little while. The suppression wears off, they get stimulated again, and the noise is back again, right? It comes with it. And if that repeatedly happens, then they're telling you, like, they're not aware what they're doing that's getting them corrected. Otherwise, they'd stop doing it, right? So dogs are very smart that way, and they're not going to continue to do something that's not in and of itself getting them reinforcement under duress if they can find another way to get to the reinforcement without having to go through the pain and suffering of those corrections. They're not stupid, and so it's a teaching process.